Hey guys, Krzysztof the Polish Geek, and now welcome to the review of the very first episode of the new show set in Westeros, The Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I have to say, based on the trailers and what I was reading about it, I was pretty much looking forward to it, especially that, again, we knew it's gonna be much more lighthearted than either Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, and basically gonna be this relationship between a knight and his child squire, and again, a very much a light-hearted tale and more into the basically classic knight values like chivalry, honor and all. So yes, I was very much up for it. Again, despite how Game of Thrones ended, I'm still very much up to revisit the world of Westeros, especially if it's gonna be basically a much smaller scale, more light-hearted story, which Night of the Seven Kingdoms was very much promising. And again, the trailers were promising, so yes, I was really looking forward to it. And the first thing I'm gonna say is that I used to be a huge Game of Thrones fan. I used to think it was like the greatest TV show ever made. And I still think seasons 1 to 4 are still some of the most quality TV you'll ever find. And then seasons 5 and 6 are still pretty good, actually. Especially the last 2 episodes of season 6, I think, are among the best episodes of the whole show. And then season 7, I still think had lots of things to love in it, even if pacing was all over the place and fast travel was still annoying, but despite the pacing and plot holes, deep down a good story is still hidden there, just very, very rushed. But then season 8 came out, and in season 8 it mostly ruined the show for me. Like, yes, the finale of Stranger Things was underwhelming and kinda disappointing, but it's still nowhere near the travesty of season 8 of Game of Thrones, which was a straight up middle finger that came to everything that came before. Like, people often say this is the decline of quality of Game of Thrones, but I say this is much more accurate. And then House of the Dragon came out, and I really enjoyed season 1. I thought, nice, hopefully it's gonna have a better ending than Game of Thrones. It seems like we're going back to days of Game of Thrones glory. And then season 2 came out, and I still liked it, but the more I thought about it, the more I was thinking that it's still nowhere near the greatness of its predecessor, and it even made me more depressed about the trashy ending that I kinda lost interest in House of the Dragon. I still might watch season 3 when it finally comes out, but yes, the more I was watching it, the more it made me depressed about the trashy ending of Game of Thrones. But again, the Night of the Seven Kingdoms though was different, because again, this was basically a light-hearted knight's tale set in the world of Westeros, and that's why I was very much looking forward to it. Again, that it was also gonna be very story about things like chivalry and all, which is like totally my cup of tea. So far, so what did I think of the first episode of The Night of the Seven Kingdoms? I have to say, I liked it. I'm very much completely on board in for an adventure of a knight and his child squire, yes. I think the first episode so far is a very good start, and this is recognizably the world of Westeros, but way more light-hearted, but very recognizably the same world. And there is even no classic, basically, Game of Thrones map with music in the beginning, probably again to make it clear that this is a much more small-scale story, just in the same world, but confined to a small area. And so far, it works very well, I think. And the story starts with Sir Duncan burying his old master, and then we do hear at some point Game of Thrones theme playing, only to be interrupted right away by Sir Duncan shitting himself, which I think is very intentional. It's basically to make it clear that this is very much a different type of a show from House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones. It basically tell you, if you're expecting House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones, then no, this is absolutely not it. This is gonna be much more lighthearted and much more comedic. And I think this is a perfect way to set up a tone of the show. And I did kinda laugh at that moment, actually. I mean, Game of Thrones also had some comedic moments, and they actually did not really feel all that much out of place from an otherwise pretty dark show, but this is gonna have a lot more of them, again, because it's a much more lighthearted show. What's interesting is that Sir Dunk is a very poor knight, and although it's implied he's very talented in his skills as a knight and in swordsmanship, but not so much in coin or anything, and even his scabbard is just a regular rope tied around him, actually. So then Sir Dunk embarks to the to the Reach, where a tourney is held because he's seeking glory. And then he stops at the inn and then meets this bold little boy we've seen from the trailers, and the boy wants to be his squire, but so far Sir Dunk doesn't want a squire yet, but everything I've been hearing about later episodes as well as the books, it's based on that their relationship and bond is basically the true heart of the story, and so far this first episode only established it. For now it hasn't gone very far yet, but it established it, and I do think so far their chemistry is pretty good, and I am very invested in where this is going. But overall, I say that the first episode of Night of the Seven Kingdoms is very good, and it's really off to a good start. Again, I am already invested in the story and the characters, and I do like how it's, again, a more lighthearted tone, and it's about those knight virtues like chivalry, honor, and all, and I am pretty excited for the tourney and to see knights fighting each other, and I betcha that it's gonna be a lot of that. I mean, this is what the show is about, after all, and I also do love where it's filmed, the set designs. Like, again, if you are watching me, you know I have huge sensitivity to amazing visuals, and I think that for such a small scale story that this is, the visuals are pretty good. I love the Irish or Scottish forest that the story is located at. I mean, I'm not sure if it's filmed in Ireland or Scotland, like I would bet Ireland, but whatever. I really love the green scenery and all within the setting, and also it makes a very immersive, and it gives off a very immersive medieval feel. And I also do very much love the score in this movie. Sometimes like there's some folk music and I really love that, but now that I'm talking about it, some of the music also gives this western feel. But now the more I think about it, the story does almost feel basically like a western in medieval times, more like medieval fantasy setting, because it's technically not the real world, but yes. But I mean, there is not anything supernatural so far, so, and there won't be likely anything, because again, it's a very small scale story confined to this knight's tourney. So yeah, the more I think about it, the story does actually very much feel like a medieval western story, with Sir Dunk basically being this lone wandering gunslinger, and then developing this bond with a boy, and then the knight's tourney place being basically this like western town. So yeah, the more I think about it, it does very much give a feel of basically a western in medieval times. But whatever, we'll still see where the story is going, but so far I'm very much invested in Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and I'm very much interested in where the story is going. And again, sometimes those type of small scale stories set within the grander universe but confined to a one small area are the type of things we need. And the Night of the Seven Kingdoms is very much that, and that's why I'm totally up for an adventure with Sir Dunk and his Squire Egg. I'm completely up for an adventure now and can't wait for the next episode. One issue I have is that there was some cringy casting that, again, Hollywood will never let go in these days, but thankfully it's very much blink and miss. I mean, more episodes are coming, so we're gonna see if it's gonna get worse or not, but so far it's very much blink and miss, thankfully. But overall, again, I say the Night of the Seven Kingdoms is off to a good start, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing more episodes. So, thank you folks for checking out this video. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you then, bye!